Hello, this screencast is for the Beta 2 version of EcoSIS. Um, Basically, what I'm going to go over today is the data management side and the find and discover side of EcoSIS. So EcoSIS is an online spectral library, and basically it's been split into two parts, as I said. And first, we'll start here with data management. So we have this data management portal, and it's actually what we're looking at right now is the sandbox. We have two versions of it. And this sandbox, which has dev in front of it, if you just go to data.ecospectra.org, you'll go to the production, allows you to kind of dive in and learn the EcoSIS data management system and play around with it without actually having to upload real data, or you can even upload a real data set, but you can kind of learn and try things out. And so that's what this server is for. So we're going to use that today to upload a sample data set, kind of show you around, and create a screencast. So the first thing we can do is you see this has all your basic kind of management features. You can create accounts. I'm already logged in. If you want to create an account, you just click register at the top and then go to login or create account next to that. And then once you're logged in, you'll see there are basically you have data sets, which are groups of spectral data created by users. You can create organizations for your lab, and you can add users and basic access control. And then you can actually create groups of data sets. So if you have, say several labs that are working on, a couple data sets together, you can actually create groups. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll go ahead in here and we'll say data sets, and we're going to add a data set. So once we come, this is actually the EcoSIS importer. This is where we're going to take our spectral data and actually create a data set with it, mark that data set with metadata, various controlled vocabularies, citation information. But we have a kind of a splash screen that jumps up at you because there's a really important thing. When you're publishing this data, which is what you're doing for the web, you need to remember you're publishing for others. You're publishing for the EcoSIS community. So it's really important that you have human readable titles and descriptions. Don't just put some cryptic text in there that makes sense to you. Put titles and descriptions that will help others who know nothing about this data understand what it is, at least from a high level, especially in the title and the description. Then fill out as much information as you can. Again, remember you're publishing for the EcoSIS community. Assume somebody knows nothing about this experiment, how it was done, how it was performed, what tools were used, what post-processing techniques were used. Try to fill all that information out. So we're going to go ahead and click continue. And kind of the last piece here is your title is permanent, so think about it before you create it. Give it some thought, come up with a really good title that will help describe your data set. In this case, we're going to call this a screencast for beta 2. And so then give it a description. Again, mine will be simple. It's a please be longer than that. I'm shortening it for brevity. So basically, we're going to now start filling out information about our data set. The first thing you're going to run into is keywords. Keywords are really nice. You can almost think of them as Twitter hashtags. They're basically self-imposed group keywords. So if below, you're going to hit a bunch of controlled vocabularies that we control the name. But if you have your own tags you want to give your data set, here you're free to do whatever with those tags. We do give you suggestions based on what you've started typing, what others have used to help with this grouping. For instance, this is a test data set. I'm in the sandbox. I'm going to go ahead and mark it with test. And then I'm going to also mark it with screencast. Again, screencast is probably a keyword that you would never find in a controlled vocabulary, but really helps fit what this is. License, if you have an open source license, go ahead and provide it. Organization, you can mark your organization here. Basically, visibility, you can have private data sets. It's not encouraged, but you are welcome to do it. If it's private, obviously you can't publish it to public search, so that will be off the table until you mark it as private. but it won't even, when private, it won't even be discoverable unless somebody has access to it within the data management system. Versioning, you can go ahead and provide versioning information. And a website, again, websites can be really good to provide your lab URL, whatever you would like. Whatever website will, again, help people better understand whose data this is and what it's all about. So then we get into a bunch of metadata about the data set itself. You can see here some controlled vocabularies on theming information and ecosystem type. And you can open these up. Here's a bunch of measurement information you can provide. Again, try to fill out as much of this as you can. You'll notice some of them are starred. Basically, these are the ones we highly encourage. And we'll actually score your data set based on the number of starred fields that you provide for us. So we encourage everything. If you can't get to everything, please at least try to get all the starred fields filled out, at least as much as you can. Processing information, again, this is really good. What did you do to your data set after you took the measurements? What are you uploading here, basically? Instrument information. You can provide a bounding box for your data set. It's important to note, actually, if you've marked all lat longs in your Spectra, we'll get into this later when you upload it, we'll actually harvest those, and you can kind of skip this step. We'll figure out your bounding box for you if you do provide lat longs in the actual Spectra itself. And then this is obviously very important. Provide the citation information. Funding source if you have it, grant numbers, author information. I'll go ahead and mark myself as the maintainer. The maintainer can kind of be the person from your lab who maybe does the uploading and managing of the data in the library. So now we're down to create data set. It's important to note you can actually go through and update all of this information once you create the data set, but the title. So again, make sure your title's really nice and understandable, and we'll go ahead and create a data set. So now we're to the Add Resources screen. Again, once we've created the data set, we're welcome to go back here and edit anything we want, but the title you can see is now permanent. So we'll go back to Add Resources. The one kind of option you have is by default, did you like to lay out your observations by column or by row? And so by column means that your headers are in, we provide a little sample of this. By column, you can see every single column is a measurement, and then the very first column is kind of your headers of your data, like codes and whatever the names are. We again we only really accept tabular data, so CSVs, Excel files, and so you can go ahead here and see by row. The first row is all your headers, and then each row after that is a measurement. You can provide, if you have global data, that kind of applies to everything in the file. You can actually provide, you can think of it as key value pairs at the very top. Again, that is optional. Excuse me, so that's formatting. So now we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna upload to sample data set. You can find it here in the tutorial under resources. And you can just see there's a demo spectra and demo metadata. So I'm going to go ahead and select these. You can drag and drop or use the file chooser. I'm going to drag them here. You can see and give a little process update. Now the backend's kind of going over them and see the upload's complete. So now it gives us a chance to actually review our data sets. We said it was by row, so you can see here it's letting us preview demo data. It's row preview. This is row 1 of 2100. You can actually use the slider to jump through any row you want. And so you can see it found all of this metadata. Well, you can see this doesn't really make much sense. The headers are kind of funky. They're these weird labels, and that's because it parsed it. This data is actually oriented by column. So let's change the orientation around. And you can see now, this is what we expect. Our demo data, it did have 31 spectra in it, and because we had 31 columns, and so you can see you can actually use the slider. Now we're previewing column 3. It had one piece of metadata, which is basically our unique ID for the spectra, and then it had a bunch of wavelengths. And so that all looks good. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and look at our metadata. So now this is oriented by row. So actually you can see here it found our headers appropriately and the data itself looks good. We can kind of skip through and look at any metadata we want. And then what we need to do is this metadata is joined by a unique key. And so we allow you to split up your data from your metadata, which a lot of people like to do. It is optional, not required. So we'll go ahead and say this is joinable data. And so then we'll go ahead and provide a join key. And by default, what we do is the keys need to be the same name. So in this case, we had a field called Spectra, which was the unique Spectra ID that we assigned to both the data sheet and the metadata sheet. And so this only shows you fields where they have the same name in both sheets. So we go ahead and select Spectra, and you can see now actually in our preview for row 1, we have, it joined on this key, Spectra equals this value, and it actually matched to our demo data on column 1, and that's what we expect to see. So here, column 28 matched to column 28. So it'll actually show you the total join count was 31. So you can see that the join appropriately occurred. And you can actually go back now and look at the demo data, and you can see now that it's filled in all this information from the join. And in fact, you can actually go any information that gets added on, joined in, we provide lookups later on, which I'll talk about. It tells you where this data came from. So you can see that like measurement type was joined from the metadata sheet. So we will kind of move on here. I'll stop yammering about joining metadata. You can ignore these are just some other options. If for whatever reason you uploaded a CSV file, it's not data that needs to be parsed to Spectra or metadata, you can ignore the sheet. And then if you upload data that's CSV but not, say, comma formatted, we give you the option of tab separated, semicolon, or you can actually provide your own delimiter if you would like. So everything looks good. We'll go ahead and click Finish. And now the data is all set. We can go ahead and say we want to open our resources list. You can also get to this by clicking Resources, Current Resources, and you can see here's our two sheets. They're kind of color coordinated. You can see our demo data and our metadata. If for any reason that pop-up screen is not your only chance to edit your data, you can always click the little edit button here and you'll get right back to the screen that allows you to change orientation or do any other file configurations you need. And again, we can go ahead here and check out our data sheet and see that everything's as we expect. You can download the files from here if you need to, or remove. You can also do some basic like mass deletions using these keys. So now that that's all set, one thing we have is we can see here that we've actually marked species type with USDA codes. And what happens though is EcoSIS will fill in USDA plant information for you if you provide this code, but it expects it on the field USDA code. Well, we don't want you to have to change all of your names to match ours. So what we do is we provide a mapping system under Advanced. And see, you can see here, map your names to EcoSIS names. And you can actually download a template file and re-upload it, so you don't have to individually do this on every one of your data sets. But in this case, what you can do is you can also just individually add these per data set. And as I said, there's this USDA symbol under species. And if you provide that, we'll actually fill in a bunch of plant information for you based on that code. And I know that maps to my species type, and so we'll go ahead and click Add. Now when I go back to my current resources and check them out, you can actually see this USDA symbol is here. And then if we actually scroll through, hopefully, possibly, we will map to some species information, which of course the demo gods are not being nice to me and you do not see, but I promise it will map provided the correct species code. So anyway, we'll continue sheepishly on. I promise this will work. So now that everything's set, let's pretend you've done all the mapping you want to do. We can go ahead and let's say we're ready to publish to the world. You'll notice it says not published. We always let you know the status of whether or not this is actually publicly available in search or not. And so you can get one last chance to kind of review the data set, the organization you've set, the preview, all of the spectra from all of your files, and kind of give it one last glance over to make sure everything's as you expect it to be. And then you can go ahead and click publish. The publish actually happens asynchronous, and what I mean by that is you're going to hit publish. The system's going to kind of do a peripheral check to make sure everything's well and good, and then it can take some time, especially this is a quick data set. It should be pretty quick to important to search, but if you've got a couple thousand spectra, tens of thousands of spectra, it'll actually take a sec. So you can just say, hey, email me when it's done. And it'll either email you with success, or for whatever reason, if some badness happens, it'll let you know as well. If you do have some badness happens, please just contact us and let us know. So we'll go ahead here, hit publish. You'll see here that the queuing happens very quick. And then now we're back. One thing to notice, all data sets let you know if they are available in search or not. So this one is currently not available in search. So it is marked as such. And actually, if you go through in data sets here, you can actually see the ones they have highlighted that have been published to search, and other ones that have not. So now we'll go ahead, while that is pushing, or publishing, I should say, we'll go ahead and let's look at the Discover side. So if you jump on over to ecospectra.org, or in this case dev-search, which is the sandbox for EcoSpectra, you will see that we have, this is the search side of things. So this is kind of our home page for search. We'll go ahead in here, and basically this is a filter-based search layout. So a lot of those controlled vocabularies, excuse me, are here on the left-hand side, and they kind of show you the number of counts for each. Again, this is kind of a demo box, so there's just a random set of data in here right now. But we can go ahead and filter down to just the agriculture sets, and maybe if there's a specific certain organization you want specific, you can go ahead and filter down and see there's two data sets from Wisconsin that have been flagged as agricultural. You can also do sets by geographic location. So as I said, the data is actually set to parse out all of your location information. So here you can actually see, you can pull open a map and kind of get this big sphere, and it'll show you. So like if we go up here, there's 5 data sets matching this area. Or if I go down to California, you can see there's 3 matching, and we can go ahead and set a filter. And now we're just filtering out information from kind of California and Nevada. So you can move that around. You can go ahead and change this filter or remove it. One kind of last thing you can do, you can actually provide your own filters. So as you saw, we kind of allow you to upload any name, any attribute name, any attribute value. And so if you actually know that there's specific data sets that have this attribute, you can actually, we help you write with regular expressions or just with basic name matching. So attribute equals value. We'll go ahead and just copy this example here. You can go ahead and add a custom filter, which doesn't match anything right now, but you can see we actually help you provide filters. Finally, you can actually look up filters. So this is kind of names that people have been using. So we can go ahead and say for optic type, somebody is added, and then you can see these are different values that have been provided. And so then this will actually filter down to only data sets with this for optic type. And then we can go ahead, we can jump into a data set. Here you basically get 3 main things. You get an overview of the data set. So here is its description, keywords, all the metadata that was provided for it. Here's the location information. Basically, again, all the data set level metadata. There's also all the individual resource files that were used for this data set. You can download those directly from this page. we can skip right down to this data viewer. And this data viewer, as you're going to notice, is very similar to what you used in the upload process. And basically, the user can go through and look at the various spectra within this data set. They can inspect the metadata for each spectra. They can actually zoom in on a particular part of the wavelength. You can there's some basic filtering on the spectra. You can actually see some stats on the data set. This takes a second to calculate. But you can see here we actually do min-max average for a data. Well, this one's very noisy. So you can see we actually have min-max average variance, all that fun stuff. And there is an API for this as well. And then you can download the data sets, and you can download as a CSV, and whether or not you want to include the metadata or just get the wavelengths. And then finally, for data access, this is good, but EcoSIS is really about using the power of the web to access its API. And so everything on this, including search, is available via a REST call. So you can use basic HTTP calls to access any of this data. If we go back to search, at any search, so this search we made, there's actually the URL to the API below. We provide a link that actually shows how this query looks in a URL, and then you can see this is actually the JSON, the raw response, the data response behind the query. And then you can actually click on one of these, and you can see here's the API link to the data set. And you can see again how this works. And then we provide access to actually viewing spectra. You can see here's the spectra API link. So you can see here's the spectra, here's all the data points. And if you're curious, there's links to the API documentation as well, and this explains how to use the API and access the data. Most developers, everything speaks JSON, which is kind of the common language of the web and supported by all major programming languages. So developers can go in, read the documentation, but on top of which I like to point out that this entire search tool is built solely using the API. So, you can use this search tool to kind of help you learn and figure out how to use the API, because you can see how the tool is using the API to make its queries. So yeah, that's really a wrap up. There is a tutorial.ecospectra.org, which has kind of an ever-changing glom of resources. It has a slide deck. It has the demo spectra I used in this demo. It has a link to the API documentation. We have 2 email addresses you can email for questions and comments. Screencasts, we're actively updating those right now. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation.